Ko Bronwyn tokungawa and no ototahi ahau. I'd just like to first start with a karakia for our webinar. So, Mauri ora kia mātou, arahina mātou kia mātou mahi. Ke mihia hei huarahi mō te kaupapa o Mataranga o Hangarau. Āwhina atu, āwhina mai. Te pou e here nei I a mātou. Hui e, taiki e. Thanks, Holly. So it's my pleasure to welcome Sonia Lucchese. She's a specialist teacher. She's starting in primary and secondary, and maybe we'll even learn a little bit for ECE, where I'm at. She supports a totally place-based environmental and sustainable education program through her knowledge of weaving and tīkanga. So, and Sonia is also a lecturer in postgraduate professional teaching practices at a tertiary level. So we're covering all bases, and we're very lucky to have her. And thank you, Sonia, for bringing everything that you are bringing today, especially how you weave in your tau iwi responsibilities to the te o Waitangi. And maybe through this webinar, we'll learn what tau iwi actually means. So over to you, Sonia. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Bronwyn. And thank you, Holly, for having me. Ko waiaho, ko la montagne noire te monga, ko le touré te awa, no waiaho, ko no marakahia, no itaria, no haina o kutipuna. Ki marakahia, ko bitimisak te iwi, ko bersi te hapu, ki itaria, ko Lucchese te hapu, ki tamaki makoro, e me ana ki titi ko puke, kia ora ngā tīwhātua o Rākai, te iwi whakaruru ho te mana whenua o Kaitahu, ko lea la taku te mahine, he kaiako aho ki ngā reo, he kairaranga aho, he ākonga aho ki te reo wiwi, ko Sonia Lucchese, tuku ingo anu reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everyone. I'm mentioning my roots and my tipuna from Harakeke, from Madagascar and Italy and China, who are always with me. And I would just like to thank Te Ao Maori, because since I've started learning about Te Ao Maori and engaging with Te Ao Maori, I have connected with these roots. I grew up not knowing much about my Malagasy heritage, because when my mother was born in Madagascar and grew up there, it was a French colony and she did not know anything about it. And what I loved about, especially through weaving as well, learning about Tikanga, I got to learn a lot about myself, and I will show you later on. But through weaving, I got to use the knowledge that was passed on to me from the Maori traditions of weaving, and I could bring in my own culture into it. And this is something that really is great for our ākonga. This is something that no matter what we do, bringing in whatever we can, whatever we know from Te Ao Maori, and allowing our learners to learn about it and familiarize Te Ao Maori in our classrooms, it will support our ākonga, our Maori students, but also everyone else in the classroom. And just a quick mihi to tui whalwasa, nai tuahuriri, su tipane, nai tahu. Auntie Do Nani Mu Nati Feke. I'll get back to these two wonderful ladies later on. And Miriam Masiterington, Tracy and Cook and Gian Harrison for their tōtoko constant that is constantly there. They're always with me when I talk about anything Rāranga. Nau te roro, nā ku te roro, kawara ai te iwi. With your food basket and my food basket, the people will thrive. So this is an exchange today, although I am talking and you are responding later on. The little knowledge I will bring it to you, will hopefully contribute to your teaching practice. And I would love to hear at the end of the session, I'd love to hear from you and for you to tell me what sparked your interest or whether any ideas come up, or whatever you would like to explore more as well. All going well, the plan for today is we're going to visit our commitment to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. I'm sure if you are here, you are aware and conscious of it and you have your own commitment, but it's always great to revisit it and remember the why. It is very important for us to remember and keep it in the back of our mind, whatever we do. We'll talk about the whakapapa o te Harakeke. So today, the hero of the day is the Harakeke, the New Zealand flax. We'll talk about tikanga around the practices of Harakeke. I'll give you a brief overview of case studies. So of kura, I'm going to, through field-based STEM, I'm privileged to go around schools across Aotearoa and support them in different kaupapa. And so I'll tell you a little bit about this. And then hopefully there will be some relevance from ECE to tertiary education. And we'll find some links to the technology curriculum, which is why we are here. And we'll discuss as we go along, and I will show you as well different textures and uses that Harakeke provides as well. And then we will make time for your voice because it matters. It is an exchange. So our commitment to Tiriti o Waitangi, and this is from page 4 of the Code of Standards of Education Council. So we know New Zealand is an increasingly multicultural nation, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi is inclusive of today's new settlers. This is quite important, I think, for everyone because we constantly immigrate, settle here. I've been in Aotearoa for over 20 years, became a citizen, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and calling Aotearoa a place to stand comes with an expectation that we live here in a way that respects the commitments to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the position of Maori as tangata whenua. It is not something that's happened in the past, something that other people agreed upon. We are taking on this responsibility and this commitment when we are here. And this is as individuals, now as teachers as well. Especially as teacher, we are committed to honoring Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And we understand it has implications in all of our practice. Understanding, I think it is the key that Te Ao Maori is a balance between Te Reo Maori, the language, and Tikanga Maori, the customs and the way of life. Only learning Te Reo Maori doesn't work. Only learning Tikanga Maori doesn't work. We need to work on both. And starting the journey, we don't need to be completely proficient, but we need to start. The goal is to get there. That'd be fantastic. But we need to really start the journey and continue to improve and get on it and question and work on this. And so for me, my belief is that, and my experience is that weaving provides an authentic context to introduce tikanga to our akonga, to our learners. So the whakapapa o te Harakeke, these are two different sources. And we know anyway in Te Ao Maori that the Harakeke is has direct whakapapa from Ngā Atua, from the gods, from Papa Tuanuku and Ranginui. And so tangata whenua is directly linked to them. Engaging any interaction with Harakeke, with nature, is spiritual. we are treating the plant with utmost respect. And this is why there is a specific tikanga around anything we do with the plant. And it is to be respected. And as I said, it is a great way to show everything Maori, everything in Te Ao Maori has its own tikanga. And so when we work with this plant that our students see everywhere, and until now I've seen it in every school I've been to, it is a great way to introduce this concept of we respect tikanga. And it inspires, this plant inspires respect and gratitude. What does Harakeke give us? There will be more as we go, but it gives clothing, shelter, rongoa, Maori medicine, and baskets, and it's very practical. It really is a godsend. It is very, very precious taonga. Tikanga. The tikanga around the Harakeke. So this is hopefully a helpful visual. So this plant, as we see in the top picture, it grows from the inside, and we see in the middle the rito, the child, and the awhirito, the parents. These three leaves are never to be cut, because this is where the plant grows from. So we always cut from the outside. And if you see the photo at the bottom, shows the angle on which it needs to be cut. And there are very good reasons for it. It's sustainable reasons, because imagine water falling on the plant. The plant takes the water it needs, and then the water just keeps going onto the ground. If we cut any other way, the water will just stay in the middle of the plant, and it will rot and die, and it will no longer grow. So here is a very simple example of, sustainability. When the flower, when the korari is fresh, we do not cut the plant, because all its energy goes into the flowers. The flowers, this fabulous plant doesn't only bring fabulous gifts to humankind, it also feeds our native birds. So we need to let it do its job. And then once it is dry, then we can cut the plants, because, it has given everything it had to the flowers. And then we only take what we are going to use. We don't just cut randomly. We know what we need. We know how much we need, and we return to the whenua, to the land, what we won't use, and we just give it back and leave it around the plant, and eventually it will just go into the ground and become food for the plant again. We do not eat when working with Harakeke, and this is something that we find around when there's a pohiri, pofiri, food comes in a different room in the wharekai, not in the wharenui, and it brings everything noa. So we move away from the tapu state, from the spiritual state. It is the same thing, linked to spiritual being. We do not eat when working with Harakeke. Respect, we do not walk around the plant. When we come and harvest, we do not just take. We clean the plant first. We don't let the plant suffocate. There are a few plants and grass that might go around, dead leaves, depending on how often we cut the plant. So we help the plant first. We look after it, and then we take what we need. And then, yes, it is much better to put what we what we don't need in the whenua again. Here is, because you will keep this plant, you will keep this this upon this recording. Here is the plant to do before hōhake. Hōhake is harvesting. So this is what you will do, what you will say. It is a thank you, really. Thank you to the Harakeke, to the korari, which is the stalk and the flower, for the gift that you are giving to us. And then this is the karakia before weaving. So overview, a brief overview of case studies of places I've been to, and I've been to different places. They may not all be technology related because it depends on the schools I went to, but basically I talk first to schools and see what they would like to achieve through weaving, and then we'll see. But the idea is that we connect to the land, we get to know the plant, and we get to know the plant from the start. So we learn how to look after it. If you see at the bottom right, the two pictures, so this particular secondary school has started a relationship with the local marae. On the left, it's the before, and the other one is after an hour of work. And we just learned how to look after it. So looking at maybe the transformation of the plant, and then we harvested. So they will continue to come and look after the plant, and now they know what to do, and they've created a beautiful Harakeke, which is a mat with this. And this is a sustainable way of creating a good habit. Above these photos, you see Amonga Hoporata. So this particular kura used our weaving experience over 2 days to link in with a cultural narrative. So they were starting to work on the cultural narrative. They were creating a PPH for their school. And so while we were weaving, students would just go out and draw the mountain. The teacher would just talk about stories about the mountain. They would talk about the hapu, etc. So this is about getting to know the plant, getting to know as well the what is happening, linking to local histories, while transforming the plant, really going from this plant that is there that everybody walks past to learning how to look after it, working it, preparing it, and then weaving it into creating a product. Top left, that was more science-based, and that was around Matariki time last year, where the science teacher was teaching about Matariki and the stars, and we learned to do stars. Bottom left, another school wanted to start Tikanga, so welcoming practice. And so she's asked me to teach how to make this puti puti. Again, the school learned the whole process of looking after the plant, of happening, which is softening it, and then making the flowers. And now every time Manuhiri comes to school, a visitor, then the whole class, the school has a way to thank them. So that's another way to transform the plant and make a good use of it, and make something really meaningful. I just wanted to say before I move on, the priority, whether when you do you study technology or science or anything else that you do in Te Ao Maori, people are asking, you know, it could be, I don't like this word, tokenism. How do we do this from the heart? Or how do we know, you know, it is something authentic? We want to give something authentic. And it is really about respecting tikanga and creating something meaningful. And it is, and this is how you honor really the knowledge that is passed on, and this making meaningful practices. And this is how they will benefit your ākonga. So early childhood and primary, it is the time where our ākonga, our learners, discover their environment. So they touch and they observe different cycles of the plant's life. I will show you later on, once the presentation, the PowerPoint is over, what happens to the korari, the stem that feeds the birds and that then turns into wood, and the different aspects of this plant as it grows during the cycle. And this is beautiful, and this is something that you can show to very simply to your little ones, and they can touch and feel the different stages in the transformation of this plant. They can hear about Maui's achievements, and I recommend this website. that gives you beautiful resources as well that are age appropriate and teach you about. And I'm mixing Harakeke and the different uses. I cannot show them to you because of copyrights, but I can just point you towards this this fabulous resource, which is very appropriate. Or they can make one of the ropes that is mentioned in this pūrako, into the story. And then try to go and catch the sun, or use it as a headband if you can't find the sun. The earlier ākonga I introduce to the plant, the more natural it will be. You get them to observe it, and before you create something with it, you need to familiarize yourself with the product. And this is the best time to do this, when the children are just so curious and tactile and want to see what's happening. There is so much going on with the Harakeke. Again, you will see soon what I mean. And that's a perfect scaffolding as well, the perfect progression. From intermediate to high school, to help me with finding being relevant to the technology curriculum, I went on to TKI and I found this inquiry curriculum summary that is similar to task-based learning, and that's something that is fairly common, and you can do cross-curriculum activities as well. And it just really gives specific aspects, and are focusing on the ones that obviously talk about technology. So for technology and innovations, we are talking about, investigating design process and explore the impact that technology can have for humans. Well, here I can talk about the sails, and I will tell you more about the sails soon. Mokihi, which are little rafts that are made with the korari, the stem when it turns into wood, the tukutuku panels, which are the decorative panels that are woven, that are into a marae, and that show patterns that are in relation to the specific hapu. Woven patterns as well, fishing hooks, kupanga, which are fishing nets, the shredded harakeke, the muka, which is the fiber inside the harakeke leaf. Ropes, we'll talk about the ropes shortly as well. Roro, which are kete for various purposes. Everything that is created has a specific purpose. Footwear, shelters, pake, rain capes, rongoa, Maori medicine, for example, the gum heals burns, it is antiseptic, it creates a natural plaster if you cut yourself. The roots cure infections, and the leaves we use as bandages. And there are constant practices that improve the use. Mana whenua, tangata whenua, we're constantly finding new ways, practical ways to use the whenua. So the innovation was constant and continues as well. So we're talking about trade and exchange here. Here is an example. Because we have the New Zealand history curriculum, and making links into every subject is very useful. And in technology, you have all these processes and how a product can become so many things. And I think these flax, the story of the flax and the ropes is perfect. So the shredded harakeke ropes were the first trade in Aotearoa. So before 1830s, just before, the Europeans used to come and exchange muskets most of the time, and then blankets for shredded harakeke. Or muka sometimes, but shredded harakeke to make ropes, because it's one of the strongest fiber in the world. So that was the first trade. That kind of changed a bit where the population went, because that was a very good prolific business. Later on, flax factories, flax mills started to come into the country. And I think one of the last ones, they went until mid 1970s. So this is a big part of the history. And then go looking at them, how the processes were and the different aspects that the Harakeke was going through is fascinating and something very interesting for technology. Here, looking at technological practice, we're talking about, ethics. Well, Tikanga here, processes. It's highly important. The patterns, everything has a reason. The patterns tell a story. The patterns support identity as well. So it's not just we copy a pattern. Oh, I like this, let's use it. There is a reason why. And so the question of ethics as well in using specific patterns plays a big role. And then different materials provided by the Harakeke, depending on the process. Again, I keep promising, but this is just hard to show you as I show the presentation, so you will get a better idea of this. And yes, muka is one of the strongest fibers in the world. So something really important and relevant for you. Environment sustainability, I've already mentioned this. So tangata whenua are all descendants from Ranginui and Papatuanuku. So every single practice is environmental friendly and sustainable, is in full respect with nature. So tertiary education, well, everything that was said until now. He waka eke noa, we're all on the same boat. You're going to be teaching them or employ this youth who will grow very aware of tikanga and of, yes, here talking about the Harakeke, of what how precious Harakeke is, but also about the whole practice and te ao Maori. So it is very important that you familiarize yourself and that you use it yourself. You will benefit from it, but you will also be more in touch and successful with this youth that is coming. And you'll need to be able to guide them and support them. So familiarize yourself with te ao Maori and see the innovative nature of the Polynesian explorers. It is really amazing. And I will show you shortly resource that will help from EC to tertiary education and help you if you are not too sure how to get started. Future technologies, Kwamua, Kwamuri, walking backwards into the future. So in te ao Maori, in the Maori world, we go backwards into the future. We always look at the past. We always stay connected. This is how we go into the future. But obviously, technology, we talk a lot about future technology. So here is a way that future, that technology is continuously evolving. I will share something, a question I had to Nanimu, who's a revered Rāranga weaver that I continuously go back for guidance and advice. I saw at the Canterbury Museum this cape, this christening gown, and we were at the time learning to make cloaks ourselves. And I looked at it and I saw that it was wool. I saw that the feathers were not just native birds, but there is a chicken, there was pheasant. And I was a bit puzzled because I thought, tradition, this is not traditional. So I went and asked her about it. And she says, well, what is the problem? Why, what are you wondering about? Just we keep trying. They were discovering wool at the time. It was great. Why don't we try and include it? And this is how you keep trying and innovate and try new things. And she made me understand that respecting traditional processes doesn't mean that you cannot innovate. And this is something that I think could be interesting for technology teachers to reflect on. And I will show you some examples following now. So, as mentioned sales before, Te Rā is the last original Maori sail. Unfortunately, it does not reside in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It resides in the British Museum. And there is a ropu, Te Rāringa Ropa, who's studied it in the last couple of years and who's gone to the British Museum to study it, and noticed that the techniques used to joining the panels, you see there are several panels, nobody knew anymore how to do it. This knowledge had gone. And so they went back and studied and learned and managed to recreate it and discover it again. And so what used to be an old technology became a new technology because it had been lost. They were successful. I believe they've created 2 now, but the first one, or they might be in the process of making the second one, but the first one they've created is now was entered into the kaiako in Waitangi. But that was very interesting to see old knowledge versus new knowledge, and this one is both really. Those who may not have been to Ōtautahi Christchurch lately may not know what this is. This is at the back of the police precinct in Christchurch, in Ōtautahi Christchurch. And this is the symbolizes Okorowai. Okorowai, these cloaks, or a kakahu that's made with feathers. It will be a kakahu. This was done in consultation with Mata Popore, who was an organization from Naitahu, from the local iwi, and they were heavily involved into the rebuild of Christchurch after the earthquake. And they are now very included, and we can find them, we can see them, they're very present. Naitahu is very present now when we go around Ōtautahi Christchurch. And this is an example of a new technology of showing tradition, traditional symbolism, and that is not something that was just taken, let's just do this, but the local iwi supported this, and it was a great collaboration. So the past informs the future, symbolism is present, although new technologies are explored. Again, hopefully this sparks a few thoughts for you in your classrooms and something, and it might hopefully will give you will motivate you to try things in your classrooms. Now I mentioned 2 fantastic ladies. Here they are, Moriho Futehinare, who we call Nanimu, and Reihana Paratai, who is called Auntie Do, by the weavers. These 2 ladies are fantastic. Nafariki Manaki, again, the woven mats of welcome. If you haven't been to Christchurch, you may not have seen them as part of the rebuild. And as you see through Mata Popore again, this is a great way as well to include Te Ao Maori within the new Ōtautahi Christchurch. So Manaakitanga is, you know, the way of welcoming visitors, manuhiri visitors, is a very important value in the Maori world. And so the whāriki are a way. The patterns I mentioned before, that patterns have a special story or represent a special hapu. So they belong to a hapu. They're all attached to something, someone, and you can't just copy it. And so here came the idea of, yes, we want to have whāriki. What do? People are going to walk over them. So obviously, we could not use patterns, that belong to anyone because they're going to be walked over them. So these two wonderful ladies created 13 new patterns for this specific purpose. Remember, in Te Ao Maori, I believe, like in any technology, any innovation, everything is created for a purpose. So the history of Ototahi, of Naitahu, is into these patterns. They all have a history. If you see around in black, this history is written in there, the name of the weavers, but also what it stands for. There are panels around that explain what it was made for. So that was a lot of work, and it's made in tiles, and that was never done before. But tikanga was respected. Nobody's mana was damaged in this, and this work was made in collaboration with the local iwi. So this is another example of, technology progressing while still respecting traditional knowledge. Now, something really, really interesting. Watch this space. So this New Zealand company, and as you see, available at the end of 2023, so we'll have to see. This so much I can tell you about it. I heard about them late last year, Kiwi Fibre. But they're working on using Harakeke fiber to replace carbon fiber and fiberglass in some products. I think they were starting, they tried with skateboards, but they're working on this, and they know that how strong Harakeke is, and their thought, their take was also sustainability. It would be so much better for the planet if we could use natural fibers for this kind of work. And what you can see on their website is they're aware already of the tikanga around how to harvest Harakeke. They're telling you that they will not cut the rito and the athirito, and the plant is planted once and it will regrow and it will be looked after. So it is very refreshing to see someone who's thinking about putting future technologies again while looking after the planet, and still working on new technological products. I got it. So my advice, I'm sorry, I was just conscious of the time, so I kind of went over everything, but to really include Te Ao Maori into your practice. Connect with your local iwi, hapu, learn about local stories, learn about patterns, and then, ask for permission to include them and see what could work, what your hapu would be happy for you to use in your classrooms, and see how they adapted to your local environment. There'll be many stories that could enrich your classroom, and build from there in collaboration with them. And what I say when I talk to future teachers, you have these amazing resources that Professor McFarlane and fantastic other teachers have put together. The Hikaido schema for early childhood education, for primary school, for secondary, and then for tertiary education, Nahoe Whao Tawhiri Matea, culturally responsive teaching. They are really supporting as well these practices. They are a great guide for you to self-reflect and see where you are. So the Potama is a kind of a scale and see where you are, a progression. And this is really something that changes, something that I use with teachers. And I could not advise you enough, or if you see it, your schools may have it, look at it. And see what you can do. And Harakeke is a fantastic tool. So now I'm going to stop this presentation and show you multiple textures and a few examples that I have at home, just again to spark your interest, hopefully, and get you thinking and give you a few ideas. And here are the works cited. I know that you will see this later on so that you can just have a look. Everything I've mentioned is up here and you can go online and research these a little more. So I'm going to stop sharing and there. So, for example, we said that everything that is created has a purpose. So we look at these two corners and you may or may not see the difference. You might see that one is a little bit more shiny than the other one on the outside. And the one that's shinier has a softer side on the outside and the not so soft on the inside. This is a corner that's called 4 corners that is made to carry anything. Okay, you can carry tools or what have you. If we want to carry food, however, we are creating it this way with the shiny side, the soft side on the inside, so it doesn't damage your kumara. So these are these little things that Tangata Whenua was thinking about. And it's a detail, but it will make a big difference because your food will last longer, won't it? Talking about food again, we're carrying, this is for, crops. When Tangata Whenua would go and gather shellfish, I will show you how to soften harakeke shortly. But here you would need to soften it. And the inside is quite rough and quite hard, so that when you put your shellfish in it, it scrapes the dirt and everything, and it all goes away. So just by carrying it and putting everything, the dirt, half of the work is done already. The little things that you don't want are staying on the ground on the beach. This is a great way of doing this. 2 different faces of harakeke as well. So I was telling you about a cloak, and this is the cloak where I could put in my Malagasy heritage, but all woven with harakeke. And now I told you about the muka. And this is the muka. So the same plant, all this, everything I've shown you comes from the same plant. This is the muka. This is the fiber that is inside. This is incredibly soft. So now as technology teachers, surely you think about, the transformations you can do just from this one plant. I spoke to you about the korari, about, so when you look at harakeke, you will see harakeke, you would have seen this big stalk with the flowers that could be red, yellow, orange. And then I told you can harvest when it's become harder and it becomes solid wood. So this green, soft stalk that feeds the birds then becomes wood, very solid. And then you get your shelters and your rafts, etc. It's amazing. I have a little bit of time, not much, I believe, just to show you the muka again. So that's all you do is just cut here and strip the flesh, the green flesh, and then your muka is inside. Fabulous. And how to shred. Now I told you I will show you how to soften harakeke. So another interesting process. Harakeke, you have it here and you soften, and then you see the difference. So another different process, right? And then shredded, you have it shredded here. Should I show you how to shred it? I'll show you how to shred it. Here and shredded, which is different to the muka. So that was introduction to harakeke, but harakeke is a champion plant, and hopefully that just sparked some ideas for you in the classroom for the technology technology classroom. I'm not an expert, so hopefully that was a little bit interesting. There were a few takeaways. And I remember Bronwyn's question about a tau iwi. It means it's a term for non-Maori person. So when I was talking about the commitments, I am non-Maori, but I do take my commitment to Te Tiriti o Waitangi very seriously. And I do want to play my part. And I am extremely thankful that Tangata Whenua shares their knowledge with me and continue to support me as I share the little I know, just to continue the taonga and familiarize really weaving and te ao Maori in our teaching practices. There, I am done. You can breathe. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening if you're still there.
Definitely still here, Sonia. I can't believe you think that you're not an expert. Come on. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. And as a tau iwi myself, I really appreciate how much you have brought of yourself. As you said in the beginning, you know, you learned more about yourself and your ancestry through this and through these practices. And actually going back to right back to the beginning where you talked about the whakapapa, I noticed that there are actually 27 varieties of flax. Have you found one in particular? I mean, how do you know which one you're working with, or are they all okay to work with?
Oh, I don't know them all, and there are more than that, because if you see just on one line, on the muka line, there were 27. On the other line, the Harakeke, there were 22, and then on another line there were 32. So there are many different ones. The two main ones are the muka, so the ones that can give us this fiber.
Yeah.
And that we see, and they're the ones that really shoot straight. And then those that are a little bit softer, thick and softer, are the Harakeke ones. But yes, I only recognize a few of them. Yes, it takes a long time, but we have beautiful places of conservation around the country that are there to educate us. And there are pa harakeke across the country where you can go and learn about them, and it's something I'm still doing, learning about them as you go. Yes.
Well, that was my question. Let's say, you know, I love to those quite simple ideas, because I'm not an experienced weaver and I certainly haven't taught a class how to weave. So using the rope with Maui, brilliant start. And then the stars of Matariki, another great idea. And I love your puti puti for the manakitanga. That's so good. It feels really achievable. Yeah. But I'm stuck with, where do I go and get it? And am I getting the right one? And if I do approach my local iwi, what have I got in exchange for them? I don't want to feel like I'm just coming to take all their harakeke, and, you know, it feels a little bit empty on my side. Although actually you said about tidying up the garden. Yeah, that's a good one actually. Sorry.
Yes, and I think, I mean, I go through field-based STEM and I help people get started. So that's an option that's provided by the Ministry of Education, and that's on the first page. But otherwise, really, you go to your local iwi and explain. And now more and more iwi have someone who looks after the education side and who actually communicates with the schools. And so I think that schools would have a contact. Okay. And then offering and asking them, and you would find that many weavers, many people would be just happy to do. That's how I started. I used to go, as I was learning to weave, I used to volunteer at my daughter's school to just weave with the children, and that was just fabulous, just to see them. And then it just became something that I just kept doing because people were really keen on doing that and heard about it. So many people would love to just come in and do it. And yes, offer to once in a while go and help clean up or using them.
Cool.
Yeah.
And thinking about the tikanga and innovation, I liked how you touched on that, and how it doesn't have to be that, you can't innovate and sort of take the fiber to new places. That's so cool. But up to, collecting the fiber and respecting, not eating and the flour and la 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 la. At what point, can you be sure that you're not disrespecting the tikanga if you're starting to change the fiber in your innovation?
I think in anything, just like Te Tiriti asked us, because this is where I go back, and I think we should all go back. There's the collaboration, the partnership.
Yeah.
And so it all comes down to this relationship we have. And I don't know, I just saw the website of Kiwi Fiber, and it looks like, sustainably they are looking after it. I hope they're working in collaboration with someone. But I think, and the example I've taken is just because I know someone who was part of Mata Popore, and so in Christchurch, everything was done in collaboration between the city council and Ngāi Tahu, and they were heavily involved, and so you have this partnership that's there. I believe that if you really want to achieve this, you have to be in collaboration. We can't decide I'm respecting, I'm not respecting. For this, what we're doing ourselves, we are respecting tikanga. It's a small scale, as you say, yes. Big scale, were the flax mills respecting tikanga? How much were they collaborating? How much partnership was there? So from now on, I strongly believe that there has to be, that's upholding Te Tiriti here, working in partnership with local iwi, and just discussing with them and seeing what are they comfortable with, what do they think, and they are very supportive. And I think the example we've seen in Ōtautahi is that the iwi are open. It is just about, finding a way to,
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's a great answer. Actually, it totally makes sense. And I love the Kiwi comp. That's what really excites me, that we can start to create these amazing resources, sustainable, and right here in New Zealand using Harakeke. It's just, as you say, it has so many uses.
Hopefully I'm not overpromising. They haven't come up with it yet. But
yeah, but still, that's
I'm sure they will. I'm sure. I have
what
faith.
Technologists do,
Exactly.
and they trial and error. Who hasn't got a purpose in being sustainable and looking after the environment and trying to sort of cut back on all the pollution that we're making. And now we have got lots of people have really enjoyed this, Sonia.
Oh, thank you.
And what a great presentation. They all want the slides, but someone has asked, can you cut Harakeke at any time?
Thank you very much.
And at any time of the month. Yeah,
thank you very much for asking this, because I have been very conscious of the time, and I did rush through a few things. Yes, so Harakeke, so as I said, when it's in flower, we don't touch it. We do not touch it. We do not harvest when it rains. We do not harvest at night. So it is during the day when it's not in flower.
Anything, my little mind is ticking over about if you're menstruating.
Okay, let's go there.
Oh,
all right, so as I was taught, and the disclaimer is that some iwi might see things differently. So as I was taught by the kai Rāranga from Ngāti Wheke here, I did ask, because obviously I am asked this question when I go in and talk to people. It is about separating the living world and the world of the dead. And so when a woman menstruates, it means that, you know, no life is going to come. And so when a woman is bleeding, then she's to keep away from the harakeke, from harvesting and from weaving. But that goes with what this particular iwi was, this particular hapu thing. So again, you know, other hapu might think differently. As that, so if a woman is hapu and pregnant, there is no bleeding. However, she may, you know, not have the strength, or, you know, sometimes our mind is just not quite there and we really need to focus in our weaving. So let's see whether she thinks it's okay for her, but this specific hapu and iwi thinks that it would be tika for a pregnant woman to weave. But I do know that some hapu are not okay with it and have, you know, their reasons. So something to check according to which iwi you are in, and to ask your local iwi. And this is where it is really useful to have your to have a contact from where you are.
Okay, thank you. That's cool. So we are running out of time. So there's Jess Dewhurst has shared something. Otatahi kaiako here. Mata Popore has online fact sheets about their work on the cultural narrative within the CBD, if anyone wants to read more. Yes. And she has put a link there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
And Lisa Stenhauer, can she share the videos and slides with her teaching colleagues at her school?
I will let TENS decide, because this now belongs to TENS. Who will,
Okay.
This presentation
Sandra,
now
what do you
belongs to
think?
TENS.
Thumbs up or thumbs down there?
So
I think it's a thumbs up from me as well. Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, Lisa, go ahead. I think as your whakatoki in the beginning, with your food basket and our food basket, everyone will flourish.
And if you have it on the front page, you have ways to contact me if you want to know more as well.
Thank you so
if
much.
there's anything, or through TENS.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sandra. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia, for sharing your knowledge of and practices with Harakeke and Te Ao Maori and how they relate to the technology curriculum. I really enjoyed your challenge to all of us to include Te Ao Maori into our practices, and to make sure that we are getting that permission and being respectful of local iwi and hapu. Thank you very much. Just like to finish up our session today with the karakia. Kia moto katoa, kua mutu mato amato mahi, me kopapa hoki, arahina mato, ka amato mahi ano, kia whakatupua, mato ki nā, kopapa mi nā mea e whakapono, manakatia me mato. Kia ora.